It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are live with Expresso. Brace yourself. This is going to get hardcore. The boys are on the couch. Why? Because we are both new parents. Well, I'm very fresh. You're relatively new, but I've learned some sage lessons. I mean, hopefully going to get some more from the doc. It's National Child Protection Week, and with winter fast approaching, well, I think on us at the moment, parents must do all they can to keep the little ones safe and healthy during the colder months. So today we're going to discuss all the health complications that come with being a parent and winter wellness for kids. The complications being on the parents' side and the wellness being on the children's side. So I'm going to ask a big one because I've started. It's my duty to do the bathing, which I absolutely love. Is it true that your child is going to get sick if they have wet hair or if they remain wet once they've gotten out of the bath or a pool or anything like that?
No.
No.
Okay, just a straightforward no. I like that.
So the misconception is obviously that leads to a cold. I don't know if it's because of the word cold is the same as the temperature cold. And they don't necessarily equal the same thing. What you might notice when exposing someone to cold, even when you're walking in a supermarket near a fridge, for example, a runny nose, that's rhinitis. And that's because of the irritation of the temperature of the lining of the nose. And that just causes your eyes to tear. And your nose to run, which looks like a cold, but it isn't. The funny thing is you get the same reaction in bright sunlight as well. Anything that messes with that system. Yeah. Correct. Cool. So the definition of a cold is actually something that's caused by one of 200 viruses. So a cold is when you actually have the virus causing the symptoms. So the symptoms are the issue here. They might be caused by other things too.
It doesn't mean let your child like freeze after every bath.
But if it's cold, it's okay. They're not going to necessarily catch a cold. This is another one. I think a big one for parents, the flu shot. You know, whenever it comes to winter, you know, should I give the flu shot? Should I not? Is my child going to get the flu? I mean, a lot of people are wondering about this. I wonder about
And some people think the effect of the flu shot runs out after a month or two, and then you need like another one, etc. But how it works is it gives you your body a warning of a photograph of the virus, so that when you actually are infected by the virus, you can recognize it quite easily and kill and destroy. But what you do need to know is it keeps your immune system charged for longer than just a month or two. Your body can recognize that virus lifelong. The reason why we get annual flu shots is because the virus mutates and changes from all over the world, and we need a new global vaccine every year. So that's how that one works.
I think, you know, I don't know if this was just something that I experienced as a child, but you'd get sick and then suddenly you'd have like 20 blankets wrapped around you, humidifiers on, heaters put on you so you could sweat it out. Is it possible to sweat out cold or a virus as you've now identified?
No, you're not going to. The virus isn't going to come through your pores as the sweat's coming out with it. It's not going to come out.
Then it's been psychosomatic, because I believe it. I believe it.
But what is quite interesting is to note the Turkish spa or bath effect. When you raise your core body temperature in any spa or steam bath, you know, your temperature goes up, and then the cooling down process leaves you feeling quite relaxed and tired, and you want to sleep, and you feel a lot more chilled. So raising that core temperature releases endorphins in the brain. It's involved with a better feel-good effect. And it obviously opens up the sinuses when you're in a steam bath.
So it is beneficial, and it can help with the pain management.
Yes, but it doesn't get rid of the virus or shorten the duration of your illness when you are infected with the virus.
Okay, but it's the same thing as like hot liquids or something warm like soup, or can make you feel better when you do have
chilies,
like
I mean, come on.
Chilies, come on, there we go.
Especially if your mom made it for you.
That's very, very interesting indeed. Give us a call, 083-913-3728, if you have any questions you want to ask the doctor relating to your children's health going into the winter months. We're going to be back and addressing, you know, how temperature changes in terms of winter. What kind of effect can that have on your child? That's
just a quick note there. It's 021-430-9881. We're having trouble with our normal line this morning. And we'd actually like to hear from the moms, please. We need to balance out this conversation.
All right, cool. We'll see you guys just now.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
So we are actually loving having a brass tacks conversation about cold and flu myths. Dr. Darren is in the hot seat, and we know that heat is not necessarily going to cure you from a cold, but so cool to have you guys weighing into the conversation. We've got Stephanie on the line, yes? Tiffany, my apologies. Tiffany, your comment or question for the lads this morning? Tiffany, good morning. You there? Oh, hopefully we haven't intimidated Tiffany out of our conversation this morning. We were of course joking, poking fun at chicken soup and mom making you chicken soup, but there is actually a benefit for it.
Funny enough, there is, because they've actually done some weighty studies on looking at the effect on the immune system and the white cell, the neutrophils. And those are the cells involved, obviously, with your immune and your inflammatory response, and how chicken itself, chicken soup, actually assists in mobilizing the neutrophils. So there is some scientific evidence that it's not just a warm comfort food.
It's not just the saying.
It's not just the saying. That's quite interesting. But, you know, things like honey and tea obviously are there to soothe your voice, your throat, but they don't have an effect directly on the infecting virus at all.
Maybe they just give your immune system time to get onto the job while you feel a little bit better.
And they distract you from the illness.
From the man flu.
So we've completely busted the myth a little bit earlier on this morning that you know, going outside or getting cold can lead to colds or flus. All right, so that's on the table. It's not the case. Okay, but there's definitely you know, kind of changes happening. Obviously with temperature changes, you know, the effects on the body, circulation specifically, hands, cold feet. How should we manage it as parents, and what do we need to know?
Yeah, so be aware of the fact that when the temperature changes and the season changes, that's when the viruses are activated and are active. All right, so that's why there's an increase of the amount of symptoms with the cold. So it's not just the direct mechanical effect of cold in the airways and so forth, but also that's the time of the year that the viruses become active. We see some beautiful snowball there, some ice. You know, it affects the circulation. So cold causes the blood vessels to constrict. You can imagine then you get nice blue fingers and toes when you're really, really cold outside. Prolonged periods of that can lead to obviously hypothermia. And hypothermia has with it dire consequences for children. And you'll be surprised, just sitting in a room working for longer than 6 hours with the aircon on that someone forgot to put off at a cold temperature. The child is so into his Lego or whatever he's doing, they don't think of that. And obviously, depending on their body composition, their body temperature might drop significantly, leading to other health complications.
Forget being cold and wet. It's dry. In Joburg at the moment, it is dry, and that often accompanies our winter at the moment. How do we combat that and those symptoms?
Yeah, so the airways and the mucous membranes that line the mouth and the back of the throat and going up into the nose, they have small fine hairs, and they also secrete a certain product that's involved with trapping dust particles, etc., and also moisturizing the skin. So what happens in those areas, you can imagine, when those membranes dry out, they're more prone to becoming dry and scaly, sometimes even torn and chapped, like your lips get chapped in sun, for example, or wind. And that's what then happens, that predisposes you to get an infection introduced into those areas.
Taking more virus. Go on.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Darren Green. We're going to continue our conversation around winter and the effects thereof and how to keep our children healthy throughout these cold and winter months. Give us a call, 021-430-9881. That's 021-430-9881 if you want to ask Dr. Darren Green any questions on how to keep
phone us back, please. We need a mom.
Phone us back,
we need a mom.
We'll be back just now.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You're live and back in the doctor's rooms. Dr. Darren Green here to bust those winter myths. So we did connect again with Tiffany, and she posed a very interesting question, certainly from my perspective. 2-month-old baby. How do you combat flu or a cold in a little baby? Obviously, you can't just kind of pump them full of medicine. What do you do?
So remember the difference between a cold and a flu. Let's start there. So a cold is itchy, runny nose with maybe some tearing of the eyes, etc. But when we move on to a flu, it's a systemic illness, often associated with body pain, muscular pain, irritability, fever going through the roof, etc. You know, so big difference between the two. So your treatment for a cold is normally symptomatic. We're looking at treating a runny nose,
decongestion,
you know, decongestion, etc. Maybe some saline spray if it's thick mucus to get all the gunk out. And then obviously looking at fever control. If you have if influenza in a 2-month-old, they can get really ill. They can develop complications in the lungs, get pneumonia, etc. They need to be examined. One of the big tips we give them for children is notice the signs of respiratory distress. And the 4 things, it's quite easy. Remember nasal flaring. So you look at your child breathing. Are the nostrils flaring? That's not a good sign. We don't want that. The second thing is the respiratory rate mustn't be elevated above 40, for example. That's the amount of times you breathe in 1 minute. And then the other 2 things are, you look at the ribs themselves and the spaces in between them get sucked in. That's called recession. intercostal recession, and then the last one is at the base of the chest, subcostal recession. Those are signs that your child needs to be examined immediately and taken to.
I'm going to go home quickly, guys.
So
I
that's
just want to
4
double
things.
check.
So remember those 4 tips.
It's tough being a new parent. You know,
It's
man.
useful. But the rest, you know, obviously feed your child on time, monitor their urinary output, monitor their stools as well, and the temperature control.
Which actually you do end up doing a lot.
You monitor it vigilantly.
It's scary. I remember the first time Kian, my eldest, got sick, and it freaked me out. It's something you feel like you don't know what to do. Listen, diet, quickly. How should we approach diet within the colder months to make sure that the young ones are staying healthy?
Obviously, breast milk is the best as long as you possibly can. If you can't and you're moving on to solids, remember a balanced diet with sufficient immune-boosting foods or elements of your immune system, which are your vegetables, your fresh vegetables and fruit, not the canned stuff, the properly prepared fresh stuff. Yes, and then obviously combined with that, sufficient fluid intake. And with that, obviously, comes the things of exercise and exposure and so forth. Remember, you can't protect your child from being exposed to all these viruses when they crawl on the floor every day. They need to be exposed
Don't be precious about it,
to develop a bit of immunity as well.
We've finally got a lady phoning in. Thank you so much. Rosette's on the line. Your question or your comment, Rosette?
I'm sorry to bother you. My son has asthma, and I want to know what is the difference between asthma and flu, because he's got a running nose and his chest is blocked.
Yes.
Cool question. I know a lot of children, certainly childhood asthma is very prevalent, but I'm sure exacerbated now, yeah?
So asthma, per definition, is usually a disease that starts in childhood. It's associated in children that have an atopic profile. In other words, they're allergic to many things in the environment, like, they get eczema as well from topical things, certain foodstuffs and so forth. So asthma, per definition, is when you have a hyperreactive airway that is sensitive and goes into spasm and you can't breathe out. You find you have a wheezing sound, that we call it. And then obviously you need to be aware of that bronchospasm, which is when the muscles go into spasm, and you need to relieve that obviously immediately, otherwise you have hyperinflation of the lungs and your oxygen needs are not met. So so that's a big difference. So asthma involves the hyperactivity of the airways, whereas flu in children is an infection by a virus that can give you a host of symptoms in different systems of your body, including fever, sweating, chills, etc., but also obviously a pneumonia, for example, later down the line.
So while they often come together, they are two separate things and you need to tackle them separately. Rosette, thank you so much for weighing in on the conversation. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I've learned so much today.
That's it. We're going to be back with a good doctor for one last time. Give us a call, 08021 430 9881. That's 021 430 9881. And he's going to be right here to answer some of your questions right now. Let's bounce to the kitchen.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Thank you, Kat and Amy. Yes, one last sit down with Dr. Darren Green this morning, talking about colds and flu with regards to your children going into the colder winter months. Now, here's a very, very interesting question, but before we get there, we do have a caller on the line, Anonymous from Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our little grandchild is 2 now. She just turned 2. Very puny. She eats all right, but I want to know, why does she cough all the time? Wow. A wet cough. And the little nose is running all the time, and I don't know. The doctor kept on saying it's virus, but she's just not over it yet.
All right, thank you so much, Anonymous, for that one. 2 years old, a persistent runny nose and wet cough. Doc says it's viruses. I'm assuming Doc is right.
Tis the season to be snotty. So, we're going to have a lot of secretions. The question is whether she has those symptoms of distress that I mentioned earlier on, whether there's fever associated with these symptoms or not. Fever is a good thing. It tells you your body is launching an attack. Your immune system is actually attacking the invading organism. So it's a good indicator that there's something going on. Then we need to differentiate, is it a virus or a bacteria, or just allergic-related symptoms of a cold or of a runny nose, irritation. And how you do that, basically, is by looking for associations of what kind of food, what kind of environment. You take a family history. What are the parents suffering from? Do they have allergies? Does the child have accompanying eczema or not? To point to allergies as a constant problem.
Like too much dairy could be exacerbated.
Dairy, etc. This is a 2-year-old child. They love eating everything.
Yeah, just think out of the box a little bit.
And then obviously to differentiate virus and bacteria, there's no way of doing it accurately except by a blood test. Unless there's a pathognomonic, in other words, a distinctive rash associated with a specific virus accompanying the flu and cold symptoms. It's very difficult. Then we often advocate in small children that you do a blood test to know where you stand in whether you're treating a virus or a bacteria. But we don't do that for common cold symptoms. We do that when the child is systemically ill and you want to know whether to give an antibiotic or not.
Doc, thank you so much. These two proud parents over here have taken a huge amount from that. Hopefully you guys at home have picked up on some of those myths and those that have been busted this morning. Thank you so much for connecting with us as well. Of course, you can continue to stay connected to the doc and to the show. Post those questions on our social media platforms. We'll try to get to them as well.
Good.